What's up, everyone, and welcome to a special 4th of July podcast episode. We're not officially back yet. We're actually going to announce the return date, but this is another preview. This is a second preview.
It's just a 4th of July special.
A one-shot, if you will.
That's what we promised on our last outing when we talked about the Flash movie.
Right.
Is we were back for the 4th of July with a special episode with something we wanted to do is a little just for fun. First of all, happy 4th of July, everybody. Hope you're having a great holiday with the fam.
That's my fireworks.
Here in the States. Yeah. Very good. That's fantastic.
You know the crackle ones? They go,
that's really good.
I know. I
really
should have.
You should be a Foley artist.
Right, Foley, voiceover, something like that.
That's really good. But yeah, today we are doing something a little bit different and potentially a little bit dangerous. Well, we are going to play a round of agree or disagree.
No, Tim. No.
No? It's not.
No. It's a round of agree or disagree, disagree. You gotta say
Enter
it.
bumper.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go back and forth. Each of us have some statements
that we don't know
lined up. Yeah.
Like I don't know yours, you don't know mine.
Correct.
Okay.
And we're just gonna hit each other back and forth with a statement, and then the other one has to agree or disagree.
Yeah.
So this could get interesting.
And then the person asking could quickly elaborate, but we're gonna try to burn through them relatively quick.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this fast paced.
Yeah, we're not gonna be like on a.
This is just for fun.
Yeah,
it's just for fun.
Yeah, we're not gonna be like 10 minutes on one agree or disagree.
Correct.
But you want me to kick it off?
Yes. Let her fly.
Okay.
Wait, I'm going.
So I'm gonna ask the question.
Okay. So you're gonna make a statement.
Oh, statement. Yeah, the statement. Yes.
All right. Fair enough.
Okay. So, agree or disagree?
This is like it's like waiting to get punched in the face.
Across the Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man movie, live action or animated?
Which one?
Like just in general, it's like Across Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man.
Across the Spider-Verse.
Let me rephrase the statement.
Spider-Man.
Agree or disagree? Across Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man movie. Period. There we go.
I would disagree.
You would disagree.
I disagree, and it's because I mentioned it last time when we were talking about DC and we did our little brief mention of Across the Spider-Verse and what we thought of it. I thought Across the Spider-Verse was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I did think it was a little bit overhyped. I think it was a little bit too long. For me personally, it's just a subjective taste thing. I did not like the animation as much this time around. I thought it was too much color vomit. It was too all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the idea of what they were trying to do, but I just thought some of it wasn't as effective as it could have been. I still think the first Into the Spider-Verse was the better movie. So I would say of all of them, I still think Into the Spider-Verse is probably the best Spider-Man movie ever made.
For me, I feel like I would agree with that statement, although I do very much also agree with what you just said. For me, I feel like Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse are like interchangeable. Like I think they're that close where it's like it's just one of those things. Although I really, really like that bit in Across the Spider-Verse towards the end. Spoilers. Where Miles is, talking to Spider-Man 29 and giving that speech of like everyone's trying to tell me what I'm supposed to be and how my story's supposed to go. That whole like kind of third act really kind of pushed it for me. Although the first one still too, and then Spider-Man 2 would be like my top 3 would be Spider-Man 2, Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse. So that'd be my top 3.
I think the only other after because for me it's like there's like a sizable gap I would say because you got Into the Spider-Verse,
mm-hmm.
You have Across the Spider-Verse, and then I'm probably gonna say, No Way Home. Those would be like the top 3.
Not Spider-Man 2?
No. There's a big for me.
So
there's
good.
a pretty sizable drop off
Wow.
after that till you get to the other ones. Homecoming is really good too. Far From Home is good, but it's not. You kind of.
So you definitely like Tom Holland Spider-Man more than Tobey.
Oh yeah,
Tom
Holland I think is the best Spider-Man.
He's great.
Live action Spider-Man to date.
I would agree with that, although as a movie, I like Spider-Man 2 more than I think any of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies.
I like Spider-Man 2, don't get me wrong. There's tons of nostalgia. I like it a lot, but I think that as a complete movie, Into the Spider-Verse, I think was great. The other thing about Across the Spider-Verse is that, and I mentioned this last time as well, is it had a lot of setup in it. So that's what made it kind of feel long at times. It felt a little bit slow at times for me. But I, just recognizing that they're setting a lot of things up.
But the building with his family too, his parents specifically,
yeah, it's really
I thought was so good.
Everything with the family is really good. So I would say disagree. Into the Spider-Verse is definitively, in my book, the best Spider-Man movie to date so far.
And I'm gonna go agree
with an asterisk.
With an asterisk, although because like for me, like it's almost like picking your favorite kid at that point because they're both so, for me personally, so close to each other. But yeah. Anyway, your statement.
All right, so here we go. Next. See, that was kind of a softball a little bit.
That was a softball?
That was a little bit friendly. That was very kind for the opening act. All right, so mine is, as long as the question lives, Batman is not the world's greatest detective.
As long as the question, like, the question, the character, these characters, the question. So you're saying that Batman, as long as the question is alive, Batman is not the greatest detective?
That we're not the world's greatest detective.
He's all day long.
Explain yourself, sir.
His name is literally the world's greatest detective.
That's not his name. His name's Bruce Wayne.
Okay. Let's say one of his nicknames, Cape Crusader,
right.
Dark Knight.
I'm saying
the world's greatest detective.
Is he mislabeled?
No.
Because Bruce himself said that Tim is even a better detective than him.
He said yes. From what he's seen, he will be a greater detective than him one day in Batman Hush issue 7, I believe.
So
Batman Hush. But he said one day. So
they called him the world's greatest detective a long time ago.
No. Just purely based on the is getting really in it, but just purely based on the amount of stories that Batman has to prove he's a better detective. That's just that alone, because it's got more scenarios where it's like, yeah, I can name way more instances of Batman being a better detective than the question being a better detective.
Well,
now,
I think
that's not taking anything away.
Just volume, though.
Yeah,
that doesn't prove he's a greater detective. It just means there's more examples of him being one.
Of him being a better detective.
Not better, just a detective.
No, so that's a hardcore disagree for me. Like definitively hardcore disagree. What about you?
No, I'm waiting for your better explanation here.
That is a perfectly good.
Just saying I disagree doesn't actually answer the question.
Okay,
you've got to give rock solid evidence for your position here.
For Batman being the world's greatest,
is Batman definitively the world's greatest detective, and why?
I just answered the question because he's got an infinite amount of examples of being the world's greatest detective.
What makes him a better detective than the question?
Okay, first and foremost, Bruce Wayne, as we all know, went all around the world for years, not just to train martial arts, like in every aspect of his person, of his being, trained by the best in that particular field, whether it's martial arts, computer science, detective work, any of that stuff. So, I would say if you're trained by the best, and then even his, I forget the name in what issue, I believe wasn't Josh Williamson. It's escaping me right now, but there was a mini series where they actually explained and got into, it might have actually been Tynan or Snyder, where they went in, the Batman Eternal. It's escaping me right now, but they did a mini series somewhat recently, or series, where they went and explained the guy who taught Batman a lot of his stuff. And he basically said that, oh yeah, you even exceeded me. So yeah, that. And then obviously, I mean, I don't have a lot of them off the top of my head, like issue numbers, but all day, every day, you could pick up more scenarios of Batman. All
right, it's a sufficient answer. I agree.
Yeah,
I'm just not. And the number one reason I would say I agree, I think the number one example of why Batman is the greatest, stands as the greatest detective in comics, is the fact that he was able to deduce, and this is detective work, deduce how to defeat every single member of the Justice League and have a contingency plan for each of them.
I actually thought that, but I felt like that was more
nobody else has done that.
Yeah, but isn't that more tactical or strategic?
No, that's detective work.
It's a form of detective work.
That's having to find out who each member is, learn everything about them, what their secret strengths and weaknesses are, and then figure out how do you overcome that. That's what detective work is. Yeah.
It's a hodgepodge, because that's what Batman's
That for me has always been the thing that definitively makes him, in comics, and particularly in DC comics.
It just goes to the reason that I always state, because it says so much to Batman's character of Superman, Earth's most powerful being, the most powerful being that lives on Earth. I was saying Batman's the most dangerous man alive. Yeah. A guy with no superpowers, most dangerous man alive. Why? Why? That says something.
All right, next one.
But I got one that's not.
Is this not as friendly?
No, this is not as friendly. This is not as friendly. Agree or disagree? Star Wars could make Disney way more money than Marvel if handled correctly.
Oh, wow. More than Marvel.
if handled correctly in the proper hands in a George Lucas or Filoni type.
Are we talking about all things being equal? In other words, Marvel is operating on all cylinders and Star Wars is operating on all cylinders?
I'm mainly speaking to like the film and TV show side, not necessarily like the publishing side. So like Disney, obviously, what they're pushing the most is like movies
but still,
and TV.
all things being equal. Like
yes,
apples for apples.
Yes.
Marvel's like we're talking Infinity Saga.
Yeah, just in general,
level.
like yeah.
Okay, are we we're because this is important. Are we pulling out merchandising? We're taking that off the table.
No, it's everything. Just successful across. Could they make them more money? That's the question.
Oh,
yeah. Could they be more profitable and popular?
I would say no. I would say disagree, and I would actually say a strong disagree, and solely because they have much more volume to work with. They have so many more characters. They can break out. They can do so many different things simultaneously. It all works together. Star Wars can do that, but I think with Star Wars, you much more rapidly risk oversaturation with the storylines because it's not as diverse. You're going to have a hard time breaking that out into all these myriads of origin stories and, side trilogies and all this kind of stuff than you would the Marvel universe, because you have legitimately like 60, 70 years of all of these stories and all these myriads of characters and events that you can draw from and blah, 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 blah. I would say if all things being equal and they're both just functioning at full steam, Marvel makes more money.
I would also disagree with that too, but I'm going to disagree because pretty much for what you said, because Marvel, their characters, it's just Spider-Man, Captain America, Avengers, X-Men, it's just too much stuff that they could make money through movies, TV, comics, merchandise, otherwise.
Right.
But there is something to be said that, this is like when you were a kid, actually 70s and 80s, is Star Wars merchandise was like it.
Yeah.
Like that's actually what made George Lucas all of his money because he didn't have the rights to the movie. He's like, let me just keep the merchandise.
Yeah.
Billionaire off it. So it's an interesting thing to say. Like if you got like George Lucas back, you had Filoni and they could go ham the way, just let them do whatever they wanted to do because those are like the guys. Obviously Lucas is Lucas and then Filoni is, the protege trained under Lucas. So it's like, those would be the guys would be like, okay, well, if anyone's going to do it, you are the two.
Now, I'm kind of as you're talking, I'm like thinking this through a little bit further
because you got it. Because that's what makes sense. You got Vader.
Yeah, well,
you got
it's well beyond
lightsabers.
That. It's beyond that. So here's why I'm not rethinking what I'm saying. What I still think that volume wise, Marvel trumps. But here's the problem: Marvel over the last 10, 12 years has already explored a crap ton, right? So you would have to almost reset.
You have to reboot
because Star Wars, on the other hand, because of all of the different things that Star Wars and the LucasFilm brass has done with Star Wars, they have left a huge chunk of the pieces that were fan loved, particularly on the Legends side. That fans have loved and wanted to see played out live action or
Revan, Malik,
exactly
Malgus.
All the Old Republic stuff. That they've just kind of left it untouched. Whereas if they tapped into that,
there's a lot.
Whereas Marvel has kind of reached a point where they just kind of need to have a lull so that they can reestablish
oversaturation with them.
Yeah, we've already reached. So you would almost have to go, okay, you have to kind of, again, all things have to be equal. So in other words, if Marvel was in a position where people were not oversaturated and Star Wars, same thing, because you're kind of dealing with a little bit of fatigue and, general fan anger across the board with both franchises currently. So it's a multifaceted thing. I still would say Marvel, all things being equal, but I will add the asterisk of Star Wars has a garbage ton of things, of elements and storylines and characters that have been left untapped for whatever reason.
Well, even the creation of new characters, if given the opportunity, like some of the most popular characters have been created within the last decade or so. Like Ahsoka, the Rex, the clone troopers that we've all been introduced to. Like those are
Having
characters
said that, I don't think that that's where Star Wars would be the most successful. I don't think it's in characters like that are coming and were invented in the Clone Wars. I think it's in characters that go back to Legends. I think it's in the Old Republic.
What I'm saying is they can keep like Ahsoka is like top 10 most recognizable characters in the franchise.
You can continue to do that.
Yeah.
And even explore new characters.
For sure.
If you can integrate them organically. But I really think that fans are like, listen, why don't you just do us a favor and, offer some fan service and pay attention to the things that we already have established amongst Star Wars lore, whether you want to call it legends or not, and start integrating that a little bit more heavily. I think if you did that, you'd win people back pretty heavily, and Star Wars would get back to just being a machine.
In summary, disagree. But man, I want Lucas and Filoni to run this crap again.
Yeah. Well, you're saying you disagree with the statement, not me.
Yeah, no, yeah, I disagree.
Okay.
I think that Marvel would probably still end it.
yeah.
I mean, just because you got Spider-Man, X-Men, the volume is just. I would say I don't think it'd be that far because on the other, playing the devil's advocate of my own answer, Vader, Luke, lightsabers, the Force, like those are some of the most popular things in all of fiction. So it'd be close. It'd be close.
All right, so moving on, staying in the same universe, since we talked, this wasn't going to be my next one, but since we're already talking Star Wars, my next statement, agree or disagree, it's the executives at Disney rather than Kathleen Kennedy who is largely to blame or mostly to blame for the deconstruction of the Star Wars franchise with fans.
It's the executives who are more to blame than Kathleen Kennedy.
Because everybody blames Kathleen Kennedy. Like everything goes on Kathleen Kennedy. And while I think, of course, as the head of Lucasfilm, she holds a large bag of the blame, Disney executives actually are the ones.
Disagree. Sorry, Kennedy. I'm throwing you under the bus. Not that
Why?
Just because, I'm sure, obviously, all those executives and shareholders clearly have a say. Clearly. But at the same time, you don't put a studio head in charge, vote her into office, so to speak, or into that position, and then don't let her call the majority of it. You're basically going to let her, or whoever the person is, run the show. That's the reason. Why would hire someone if you're not going to let them do their job? There's no point. It's why did you hire me then if you're going to tell me what to do? So no, her all day long. Plus, she's kind of been very vocal, even recently. I think there was an interview that came out today of how she basically alluded, saying that, again, this came out today as of shooting this. There was an article that broke that in an interview with her, she alluded that fans kind of, in a nice way, she put it, fans have to let go of George Lucas's Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
And there was another what? That is Star Wars. You wouldn't have this job if it wasn't for George Lucas's Star Wars.
Well, the director, the former director of Acolyte, who they just parted ways with, also said something similar in the past.
Yes. Yeah. So it's she's borderline said it, not even borderline. She's flat out said it herself that clearly she's the one steering the ship in a new direction. And we've been talking on the podcast for long time now that there's the two camps in Lucasfilm. You got the Favreau Filoni side, and you got Kathleen's side, who are clearly, she's got the Acolyte and all that other stuff, and then Filoni and Favreau have Mandalorian, and now it clearly seems since everyone obviously loved the Mandalorian and he instantly became a fan favorite character, that she's whoa, wait. How can we use Mando and Grogu to benefit what we're doing over here? So yeah, I disagree with that. Kathleen's leading that ship.
All right.
What about you?
I absolutely agree with that statement. I think that is exactly
my statement. What I'm saying.
No. What the statement I said.
You think it's the execs?
I think that they are more to blame than Kathleen, and this is why. Very quickly, and we'll move on. Very quickly, the reason I say that is because she's been there a really long time, and despite all of the failures, despite all of the financial losses, they have not parted ways with her, which means she's doing what they want her to do. It seemed very evident early on that, because George Lucas handpicked Kathleen Kennedy, but then the direction that things went immediately after Lucasfilm was changed hands and they started making Star Wars films was very different than what they had discussed. George Lucas started showing his discontent with what had happened. I do not think that started with Kathleen Kennedy. She may agree with it. She may be on board with the direction, but I think that was mandated by the brass up top. And I think further evidence of that is the fact that despite its discontent and failures with the fan base, they integrated it into entire park, an entire land in their park, and then built a hotel on it.
You mean
that's not even part of
a
Lucasfilm.
Hotel that's getting
that's not even part of Lucasfilm. That's
land?
Disney doing that.
What?
And integrating
her shareholders, if you will, obviously probably agree with her, but I mean, she probably would be doing this either way. And she's the face of it as well.
Maybe so, but and
Dude,
again, I'm not saying that she's not on board. She obviously is, but I think that if this was not,
but I don't even know
if
because
the company at large was not on board with direction, and I'm talking about Bob Iger down. If they were not on board with the direction, they would have parted ways with Kathleen Kennedy years ago.
I don't know because it's not that easy to get rid of.
Han Solo would have been the end of her tenure.
It's not that easy to get rid of her though. At the same time, there's lots of first she's Kathleen Kennedy.
Nothing's easy, but believe me, where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, first,
and money usually dictates that.
She's
stuff.
Kathleen Kennedy. There's lots of politics in there.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like, because she's pushing, she's doing her way of storytelling, and it's kind of like, well, we got to we're going to give her another try.
Yeah, I think there would have been a creative differences speech long time ago. If this was really just about money and pushing things forward in a way that satisfied fans the most, and not whatever motives, whatever they see as the vision of the future for Star Wars from top down at Disney, I think that this would have changed a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean,
again, I would say it again. I think Solo would have been the end of the road.
Well, it's no secret that because it's not even, if you go to other things, I mean, she's clearly, whatever her vision is clearly in line with her in execs. But I think whether the execs would, I mean, if you would have to do a whole overhaul Disney, right? That's not happening anytime
That's
soon.
exactly why I don't think anything's going to change. I don't think anything significant is going to change at either Star Wars. I'm talking about the things that are bothering fans. I think anything significant is going to change at either Marvel or Lucasfilm unless there is a massive change of the guard at Disney from an executive level.
All right. Well, I got one now.
Let's do it.
Agree or disagree? DC Comics is more important than Marvel to the comic book genre.
Ooh. Why you gotta hit me in a kidney like that? Oh my gosh. DC Comics
is more important to the comic book genre than Marvel Comics. More keyword here, important. Not which one has better stories, not which one you like more. Which one is more important, has more impact, influence on the genre as a whole?
Okay. I would agree with that solely from the perspective of Superman was the first modern comic superhero.
Congratulations, Tim, because that is the only correct answer. I don't care how much you love Marvel. I don't care how much you love DC. The only answer, factually,
yes,
taking all bias out,
yes,
is clearly DC.
It has to be, yes.
Clearly.
Because they were the first by quite a bit, actually.
Yes.
Superman, then you get to Batman and so on, and Wonder Woman, so on and so on. Yes, you can get into all the technical details of sure, Batman's a ripoff of the Shadow and the Phantom and some of these others.
Spider-Man's a ripoff of the Spider.
Yeah, so you can get into all of that, but those pulp comics. They were definitely the inspiration, and we're gonna do an episode one day on the actual character root origins, of characters like Batman, Superman, and so on. Have
you seen the Stan Lee documentary on Disney Plus?
I haven't. You?
Yeah, I just watched it the other day. It's very interesting, and he flat out says in the interview, how obviously Hulk was inspired by Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
He says in that documentary that Spider-Man was introduced by a character he liked as a kid, a noir character called the Spider. He basically he's just like the name Spider, so he's like I'll do Spider-Man and give him more powers and stuff like that. But yeah, all that to say that inspiration comes from a lot of different things. So.
And that would be I think a fun episode. Let us know if you guys would like to see us do that, where we just kind of draw exact parallels and roots of where these characters came from. But yeah, I think I agree. That's the only answer. It's DC, and it's purely from we got here first.
And we clearly know where I stand on that, given my reaction to your answer. So.
Yes. That was I felt like I won a car. That was good. All right. Next up, and this one is a little bit of a sidestep. I'm hitting you with a a little blind side.
Okay.
Hook is the greatest Peter Pan movie of all time.
Yes. Agree.
Correct, Arris. That
agree.
is the only possible answer to that question.
The only one that even rivals it is the original Disney classic, which I could totally see you or other people be like, yeah, that. But for me, Hook all day long.
No, yeah, it's Hook.
It's Hook. Yes.
It's Hook.
Which is really funny because both of us discovered recently that movie's actually looked at in the film community as a not great movie.
A lot of people, or at the time especially, it was a critical disaster.
Awesome.
It bombed. And I'm thankful that I was a kid when that came out. So I didn't know what critics were saying.
Remember the McDonald's Happy Meal toys?
I went to the movies as a kid. I saw that movie because I'm already a Peter Pan fan. Like from one time I was a kid, like the Disney Peter Pan movie is probably one of my favorite Disney movies from a kid.
Movie.
And so when we saw that and the live action Hook, it was freaking amazing. My eyes were like this big. You know what I'm saying? At like, 12, 13 years old or whatever I was. And I loved it. And to this day, it's even for my kids. Like I watched it with my kids a myriad of times. They love it. Our whole family love it. It's the best.
No.
So you're correct.
Yes, no, I agree with that all day long. I remember when it came out on VHS in mid 90s or something like that. I just watch it over and over. The scene where their imagination goes with the feast, where they're imagining I just made up a word. They're imagining all the food being there and then it becomes real. But like that frosting. Yes. Tell me that, but you're just like, what? You're like, it's so colorful. I want to eat it.
How do you set up a feast like this?
And why do you have turkey legs with this awesome like rainbow frosting and like mashed potatoes,
bread,
bro? Like so good. And
yeah,
it's like,
and the whole
you're doing it, Peter. And just flicks it at Rufio. So good.
Yeah,
so
it's
good.
Excellent. And the John Williams score.
No. Dude. Who plays Hook again?
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin, dude. The best Hook performance.
So good.
Of all time.
And you got Bob Hoskins as Smee.
Yes.
So good. And what is the name of the lady who plays? She plays
Julia Roberts.
No, not Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts. She plays Tinkerbell though.
Yeah, she's good. Julia Roberts as Tinkerbell is great too.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the one who plays dang it. She plays Wendy.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
And she also, she's McGonagall.
Yeah,
Professor McGonagall.
Yeah.
What's her name?
I don't remember her name.
An incredible actress. I love her in absolutely everything she's in. I can't remember her name.
And also, freaking Robin Williams as Peter Pan.
Yeah, Robin Williams, of course, the great Robin Williams. So yes, is the answer.
Rufio.
So good.
All right, so that's my turn, right?
That was easier than expected.
Yeah. No, that was for sure. All right, so this is a collector comic book collection. Comic book question. All right. So,
collector comic book.
It's like, let me just ask. Let me
Okay.
just say. Okay, so Hulk 180, where we see Wolverine on one big panel on the last page, is the real first appearance of Wolverine, not Hulk 181. Because everyone considers Hulk 181 to be the first appearance of it. You get it, CGC, comes back, first appearance of Wolverine. But on Hulk 180, on the last page, there is a full body shot, almost half the page of Wolverine talking, literally saying, I'm the Wolverine to the Hulk.
Right.
But everyone considers Hulk 181 the first full appearance.
Right.
So agree or disagree, Hulk 180 is the real first appearance of Wolverine
an easy
and
one.
not 181.
This is an easy one. That's a full agree from me. It's 180. In almost every other instance that I can think of off the top of my head in comics, if it's a cameo, it's the first appearance of that character.
Well, that's the argument, though. People are saying that the Hulk 180 is the first cameo appearance. First 181 is the first full appearance. When it's literally his entire body.
Yeah.
His entire body.
I say it's 180 because anytime we talk about what's the first appearance, when you're talking about the history of a character, what's the first appearance? If you say, for instance, in this instance, if we were to go and do a history of episode, and we said it's 181, right? In any other instance, in this instance, it'll be widely accepted.
Right.
But in any other instance, they'll say, incorrect. We'll get 1,000 comments. Incorrect. The character actually first appeared in a brief cameo in this issue, in this title.
You saw their left toe in panel 3 of page 4.
So, no. The first time that character appears and is seen in a comic is their first appearance. I don't care if it's cameo.
This one's weird.
It's 180.
And I agree. I also agree with saying that I do think 180 is the first real full appearance because the whole thing in the comic book, you got the cameo appearance, you got full appearance. But you look at 180, it's like, first of all, he's like drawn on like basically half the page. It's his whole dang body, and he's has 2 word bubbles talking to the Hulk. So it's like, who decided that this was a cameo and 181's the first full? Like, I feel like, and it's weird, and it's big in the collector community because a lot of people will collect 181. But since the majority always wins, so since the majority of people agree that it's 181, that's the one that's more valuable. But then you have a whole subsector like, but 181, I'm just going to keep this as well because that. So it's interesting. But I agree that I think 181 is the real first appearance of Wolverine. And that's going to piss people off. I know it. I know it.
It is what it is, okay? Where did they first appear? In 180, not 181. But neither here nor there. The collector's market is an interesting place, and there's all kinds of
because the collectors decide it's like the majority,
Yes.
like that's where the money goes. So the money, if you're looking to invest, you get 181 because that's where everyone's going. Even though 180 still first. CGC would say different when you get that label. They're like, no, 181, but I'm disagreeing.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, this is gonna be my last one.
So does that mean you get one and then I get one?
Wait, who started?
I think I started.
You started.
So we'll just go through it quick.
All right, so we'll go through it.
So you get one and I get one.
Okay, the DCU, the new DCU.
Yes.
Okay, has doomed itself already by not hitting the full reset button and completely separating itself from the Snyderverse.
I was gonna ask this one. Literally,
Are you really?
I didn't have it written down. I was going to.
Okay.
It crossed my mind. That's funny. So good thing I didn't.
Okay, so the DCU has doomed itself already. This is the statement. The new DCU under James Gunn and Peter Safran has doomed itself already by not hitting the full reset button and completely separating itself from the Snyderverse. Agree or disagree?
Oh my God, there's so much to that. That's a very like gray area. I feel it's hard to just do yes or no with that one, but I have to pick one. Okay, I'm going to agree with that statement because I do personally think they should have just done a full reset. So I'm going to agree. I that like their chances of success are not as good as they could have been if they just would have done a full reset. So I'm going to agree with that. But my caveat would be is they still can find success. It's just going to be harder.
Yes.
It's going to be more confusing. It's going to take a lot. And I mean, we don't know what Gunn and team has planned, but I will say the Flash, which dealt with like, timeline and stuff, didn't do a very good job of, or at all, telling us where we're going or how that's going to change things going forward.
Right,
maybe the intent for Gunn is to reveal that later down the line, and maybe Superman, the movie that he's written and directed. So maybe that's when we're going to get that. I don't know. But I will say I agree that they should have just freaking, because it's a blank slate like that. Yep. You had a new like chief creative officer or head of a new studio head with Gunn and Safran. You already got a new Superman. You're getting a new Batman, but you're keeping Wonder Woman. So you're keeping 1/3 of the Trinity. It's like, why not just, I mean, I get it. Cause it's like, we all love Gal Gadot's a great Wonder Woman. I understand there's some aspects of the DCU that were cool, but it's like, just start
rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, exactly. That probably would have been for the best in the long run. So now it's gonna be interesting to see. So I agree with that statement.
Okay. So you agree that they have likely doomed themselves.
Like, it's gonna be harder. It's gonna be harder. It's gonna be hard again because, like, for the sake of that, I can't go. Maybe I'll agree, but they still can find a path. I'm excited for Superman Legacy, for Blue Beetle, and all that stuff. So we'll see.
All right. I think that I'm very quickly. I think that I would largely agree with that. Although I do not think that they have doomed themselves. There's still time for them to set it right. And I'm not 100% convinced. I said this last time. I'm not 100% convinced that they are fully hanging on to any connection with the Snyderverse. They might just be trying to get through these 3 movies, get them out into the wild.
Possible.
And see if they can squeeze, and their strategy is just not very good.
Well, no, because we know Waller. We got that.
Right.
We know freaking The Amazons, which is a prequel to freaking
Suicide
Wonder Woman.
Squad stuff.
Robin Wright is literally returning as one of the Amazons. So like it's still gonna be connected some weird way.
Yeah.
Peacemaker.
Yeah.
We know we're getting season 2.
Yeah. So I would agree. I think, and I've said this many times, this has been my position pretty much for 2-3 years, is that they should just rip the Band-Aid off and just hit the full reset. The fact that they didn't definitely puts them in a precarious position. So we'll see what happens.
All right. You know what? I'm gonna keep it in that camp for my last agree or disagree. Since I have others, but I'm gonna keep it in that camp. Agree or disagree? The Flash, the movie, is one of the best DC films. Period.
Well,
it's getting a lot of hate right now.
When you say one of
the best, so like, would you put it? If we're
talking top 2,
if we're talking
3?
DCU era, top 5. If we're talking like we're going back to Keaton to Reeves, top 10. So one of the best. Because if it's in your top 10, it's one of the best.
I mean, I guess that's probably a fair assessment because there's just not a huge.
There's so many. There's a lot of DC films.
I'm saying quality. There's more not good than good.
I mean, but if we're just gonna go DC films, let's just say DC films, period. So you got all the Reeves films, you got all the Keaton films, you got Forever, you got Joker, you got Watchmen. I mean, you got a lot.
I mean, but if you're talking about the Reeves films, right?
Losers.
So, okay, if you're talking about the Reeves films, you really, as far as a movie, right? Not nostalgia, because we all get nostalgia. If you're talking about the Reeves films, it's really only the first one. The rest of them after that,
not that bad.
They're like fun and cute and all that kind of stuff, but they're just, and they kind of just get worse as it goes.
They do get worse, yeah.
So I would just say the first one, and then it falls off dramatically. 2's not awful, but it's not that great of a film either.
Tim, you're straying here. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh man. Okay, are we weighing in the Nolan films?
Yeah, there's all DC films.
Okay, so Nolan, so everything, and it has to be in the top 10
to be considered one of the best. It'd have to make a top 10 list. Yeah, I'd imagine.
So I have to count. I would say it's going to make the top 10. It's going to make the top 10.
I'd agree as well. Purely. Now
it wouldn't be in my top 5.
I am obviously a little biased. I will admit that. I'm aware that I'm a little biased because of Keaton. Because the Keaton stuff in that film was so much fun, and it was kind of like a loose like trilogy to the 89 Batman Returns. It's like, oh, now this. So it kind of like loosely wraps up that story.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put it in top 10 for sure. Because like you said, top 10. Yeah.
And I mean, we have to, one of the things, and we're actually gonna address this here pretty soon when the podcast returns. Which we have we said this yet?
What?
When the podcast is returning?
No.
Okay, so we should have said this up front. So the podcast is officially returning on July 24th.
Mm-hmm.
That is the official full-time return of the podcast, and we're going to be addressing this topic when the podcast does return. But the box office for The Flash was an absolute catastrophe.
That's because the horrible person of Ezra Miller, really, though.
I don't think that's the only reason. I think it is a reason, but not the only reason. I think there are a lot of reasons as to why that movie failed so horribly. Because it is not as bad a movie as the box office says.
No, not at all. Again, I would put it in one of the best.
Yeah, and you have a lot of people running around saying, "Oh, it's superhero movie fatigue," and then explain to me Guardians of the Galaxy, explain to me Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, etc., etc. I don't think that is as large a factor. I think that's one of the lesser factors, the superhero fatigue thing. I think that it has a lot to do with several other things that I won't get into now because it'd be too long-winded. But the Flash's box office results says a lot about what fans either thought about. Because I did a poll. I put up a poll on the variant community. We got almost 30,000 votes on this poll about the Flash. Mm. Did you like it? Did you see it? Did you think it lived up to the hype? Was the question. And it was yes, no, I didn't see it, but I'm gonna, or I didn't see it and I don't have intention to. And the either no, it did not, or I'm not seeing the movie. I have no intentions of seeing it. Made up almost 60% of the vote. And that is a statement by itself. Because our audience specifically leans DC centric. And that is very telling of what happened to that movie.
We'll see when HBO Max hits. I bet you when it hits on HBO Max or just Max,
it might do a little bit better for them.
And people are like, "Oh, I could just watch it on Max now."
Yeah, people not wanting to go spend the $20 a ticket or whatever.
Like, oh, it was fun.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's that was fun, but glad I didn't spend $40 or $80 on it, depending on if I get concessions.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I'd say it's one of the best, certainly of the DC.
Yeah, I would say it lands in the top 10 of DC films, but I wouldn't put it like that high in the.
Yeah, certainly DCEU
it would probably
era.
land around 7, 8.
I mean, if you're talking DCEU era, I'd put it top 5, easy.
Well, DCEU?
If I said if, now I'm being specific. If you're talking DCEU, I'd put it top 5. If you're talking DC films, period, yeah, probably top 10, but probably closer to the bottom. Anyway, your last question, Tim.
Yeah, I'm like trying to run through them in my head and see if there's.
It's too late. You answered. Move on.
Okay, so we'll stay kind of in the same lane. This is the last one, and this is more of a ridiculous statement, but is it true? The theatrical release of the Justice League is better than most of the Marvel content that's come out since the beginning of Phase 4.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh, that's rough.
Emphasis on most, not all, because you got No Way Home.
I gotta disagree, I guess. The
theatrical release of the Justice League
it's rough.
was better than most of the content that Marvel has released since the beginning of Phase 4.
So I liked Moon Knight, I liked Shang-Chi, I liked No Way Home. Secret Invasion has been good thus far. Yeah, because I wasn't the biggest fan of Miss Marvel, wasn't the biggest fan of She-Hulk, wasn't the biggest fan of, what was the other one? Was it? No, that was before. I'm forgetting all of them now. There's so many. Eternals would be in that camp. Love and Thunder. Oh man.
The pile gets larger.
Yeah, so man. But Justice League train. Okay. Well, say the statement one more time. I think I already answered, but say it again to make sure.
The theatrical release of the Justice League is better than most of the Marvel content that has come out since the beginning of Phase 4.
No, I disagree still.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Doctor Strange,
because
and the Multiverse
there was
of
redeeming
Madness.
factors in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Because there was only like 3 or 4 things I like loathed. There was things that I didn't like, but like Love and Thunder. It's just at this point it's just fun to make fun of it because everyone knows like I do not like that film. Miss Marvel that didn't resonate with me personally, so that one's like fine for other people. Me didn't do it. Yeah, I'm still gonna disagree. It's just because when stuff hit, I enjoyed it. So yeah, like Spider-Man No Way Home, that was nostalgia. It was basically like
you wouldn't count that. That wouldn't fall.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree. That's my answer.
Right.
Final answer.
I would lightly disagree with that statement, but lightly.
Man, I really had to think on that one.
Most, the emphasis is the word
the most. Yeah, it's like,
and I would say most of the content is not far off, on par or worse. That's how I would answer that question.
What do you got? You got Moon Knight, you got She-Hulk, you got Miss Marvel.
I mean, you can go down the line. The only one. So Shang-Chi. You have No Way Home.
Werewolf by Night. That was good. I haven't
seen that actually.
What?
Yeah, I can't see that.
You're coming up on a year almost. What are you doing?
I just never got to it.
It wasn't like great, but it was fun.
Yeah, I've heard people say it's fun, but I just never got to it. So I'll probably watch it for Halloween because we're almost there.
Might as well. No,
we're almost there. Might as well hold off.
Yeah, it was like a fun little one shot.
Yeah. So I would say, there's like a less than a handful, maybe a handful of things that I was like, hey, I enjoyed that. That was good. And then everything else was either, holy crap, how did this happen? Or this is not good. This was a major miss. This had so much potential and this missed hard.
Yeah.
And then you add up all of the VFX issues and just and it is very reminiscent of what we got and what we saw and what we were frustrated with theatrical release of the
mustache removal Superman.
Yep.
Yeah, in the beginning of the Justice League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would disagree with that to some degree, but with the asterisks of it's
especially
not
after seeing, because we a lot of people already knew unanimously even before the Snyder cut of the Justice League that it was bad. But once you saw what it should have been, you're like, oh wow, that was really bad.
Yes.
Dang, it was like so night and day.
True. Yeah, and then believe me when I say there is no justification for the theatrical release of the Justice League. That's no endorsement whatsoever.
No, the theatrical. Again, the Snyder cut just showed wow, he really drove home that we didn't botch that movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is our agree to disagree. I'm sure we'll do this again in the future.
I think we got out of this relatively unscathed.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Minus the fact that we just said most of the Marvel universe since Phase 4 is as bad as the worst DC movie ever made, potentially.
Yeah.
Well, no, Green Lantern. I wonder what, that's a good question. Which movie is worse, Green Lantern or Justice League? We'll save that for another.
Yeah, we'll do that another. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, not answering that now. Well, I'm sure we'll do this again in the future. It's just fun.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, the podcast is returning July 24th.
July 24th.
It'll be weekly from that point on.
Yep, without question. And don't forget, the Variant merch is also live now at the new Variant Labs. We've got variantcomics.com. You can find all the new Variant merch, so check that out as well.
Get that logo shirt.
And then we'll be back on July 24th.
Yep. So we'll see you guys next time when we talk about all things comics.